Hello, and welcome to Devil's Advocate with your host, me, Matthew Cohen. This is where we discuss opinionated topics with the most influential people in the real estate industry in New York City. So, speaking of, I'm so excited to have Kirsten Jordan, my dear friend, on as our first guest.
If I wasn't the first guest, I don't know if this would be a great podcast. That's all I have to say.
That's true. She wouldn't have come on.
Because I am so opinionated as well. I didn't know it was all about being opinionated, so here we are.
Kirsten is, like myself, one of the top brokers in New York City. She is the first female that was ever on $1 Million Listing. She has her own team at Douglas Elliman, which is a very top producing team. She is a mother of 3 children, which I think is incredible. And most of all, most importantly to me, she's a great human.
Oh,
so welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Most of all, I think one of the things that really just has been such a huge part of your life the last decade was being on $1 Million Listing. I myself thought it was so powerful that you were on.
Thank you.
And I think you are such a powerful woman. So I'd love to know how that was.
Well, when I was being cast on $1 Million Listing, I think the only thing I ever knew about $1 Million Listing is that my husband, who's a developer and a true real estate connoisseur, would always watch $1 Million Listing, and I, as a mother/wife, was never sitting down watching it. I was always cleaning or making an album for a child or for us, or I'd be taking care of somebody. And so I would walk by and kind of just look at it. And I have to say that in all honesty, I think as an agent, I was always like, oh my God, you're kidding me. This whole thing, and these guys are so ridiculous, and they don't work. This is dumb. And I really wasn't necessarily a fan. There are people who are big fans of $1 Million Listing, and there are people who spend a lot of their career trying to get in and figure out how they can be the next cast member. And that wasn't really me. But there was a moment in 2019 where I thought there's got to be something else that I'm meant for in addition to being an agent. What's my calling? What should I really be doing with my life? I had had my son, which is my youngest child. It was a couple years old, and I was finally getting out of the real I would say we were still in diapers, but we were getting into a better place where I felt like I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I got this text from one of the casting people that was hey, how was your year? We like your social presence. This is so-and-so from $1 Million Listing, casting, or whatever. And I am so naive that I actually thought I was one of just a few people that they had reached out to, because I didn't know anything about how this stuff works. And so I was I've been discovered. This is totally what I'm meant to do with my life. And I switched on a dime. I was oh my God, I'm totally supposed to be on $1 Million Listing in New York. They need me. This is meant to be. I'm totally going to be the first female. And I didn't know the backstory that they'd been looking for the better part of a decade, and that they had cast people who then didn't even work out with. I didn't know anything because, again, I was never sitting really watching it closely. And so it was the kind of thing where the experience, fast forward to having the experience, being cast at the beginning of 2020, filming during COVID, the pandemic, all of the things. It was just the most transformative thing I've ever done, because it gave me a lot of confidence, because it was they gave me this approval to be one of the cool kids.
And outside of a lot of real estate brokers in the industry, you and I have both been on TV, and you're much better than I, but I think a lot of people out there, to your point, kind of like how you felt before you did it, don't love the idea of reality real estate, because it's a little, not a lie, but it definitely clouds the reality, right?
It simplifies stuff that we feel is really complicated and hard.
Exactly. It's oh, here's, I did this deal in one day and I made $1 million commission. And that was I remember, because a few years before you went on, I remember talking to someone at Bravo about filling Louise's spot when he left. And after doing HGTV and after being on Oprah's network, I was I don't want to do this. First of all, love my personal life. And I hate how just fake there at times it can be, when you and I know more than anyone, because we've done so much business together and we've been doing this a long time. It's a really hard industry and is a really hard job. And, I chose not to do it, but, and I know that a lot of people thought I should have, but I was really happy with the decision of like, I just can't do this. But I think it was really great for you.
It was great for me. I also really got super fortunate. It was a blessing and a curse that there was not a 10th season for me, because I did one season, and I think I wouldn't have done it if I had known I was only going to do one season, because the reality is it's so much work, and you really don't see the exponential growth in your business until the third season. That's what every MDL person will tell you. Like, yeah, first season something, second season. By the third season, I really saw something, and so, it was almost a blessing that I didn't know that it was really in the phases of being cut, as a show. And then the other part of it is by only doing one season, I did preserve like my family life and my privacy and all of those things, and I made it out without ruining my reputation. And I don't know if maybe that would have been possible if I had stuck it out, because I would have had to really push it, and I spent really the first season trying to just protect myself and not get canceled.
And no, but the reputation thing is important, right? I want to harp on that for a sec, because Steve Gold, Ryan Serhant, Frederick Eklund, these are all people that we are close with.
Right.
All of us are influential brokers in the industry, but you have a great reputation. It never went away. It was never tarnished. I think you showed yourself really professionally.
But the reality is like, also as a woman, it's easier for it to go in the wrong direction. Whereas being a man and getting these maybe little, I would say, tarnishes to your rep, it doesn't necessarily kill your business. Or as a woman, I think it becomes more and more difficult to manage, like to manage all of it, because the reality is to actually keep a reality TV show. And I think that this is the thing. Everybody keeps being like, what do you think of the other shows? And I'm like, what I think is that most of them don't have husbands or children, and good for them. And the ones that do, they've made it work for them. They got what they wanted, and they are showing who they want to show to the world. The reason there's not another season of $1 Million Listing New York wasn't just because of me, but I'll tell you, I didn't help them not get another season. I helped them not get the other season because I wasn't going to be like low cut this and like, I'm 41 years old. It was not happening for me.
And you look a day not over 31.
Exactly. Well, there you go.
Like,
but I wasn't ready to do what it took to do that, and I think with where the face of the show was at the time, in addition to the fact that I wasn't ready for that, and nobody said to me like, hey, like you should hike up your skirt or whatever. It just was never even on the table. It wasn't something I was interested in doing, and like, here we are.
And I love that, right? Because look at what we have now. We have owning Manhattan and owning the city, and you have people that we won't name at Douglas Elliman who are being way too scandalous. They are making this industry what it's not.
But that's what they wanted, and the reality is I think that they know that actually has nothing to do with real estate, the same way that Selling Sunset had nothing to do with real estate. That was the point of those shows.
Correct.
The point of those shows has nothing to do, and that's okay.
It's the flashiness.
Like, and
the flashiness sells.
And if they make a living doing that, like, by the way, just like OnlyFans is an honest living, go for it. Like, I really don't care. That's totally fine. It's just not something I'm going to do. And therefore, I'm not getting any phone calls about going on another reality TV show because I'm just not that kind of material.
And I think what's important is that, people don't realize branding and reputation is so important in our business, but it's important in our life. Like, I care just as much as you do about my brand in the world, not in our real estate industry. Obviously they coincide, but these reality shows now that show this brand of being shallow, of dressing like your mother never wanted you to, I think is a really big problem. And I think that, it sells, but I wish something else would sell. I wish
something else would sell too. And I think that the question is there's nothing in between being Barbara Corcoran, who's on Shark Tank, and this. And if there was something in between, obviously there's HGTV and there's like all the fixer-upper shows and there's a bunch of other things. But it's like if there was something in between that was like what $1 Million Listing was, which now looks really tame, that was fun. That was cute. And like, honestly, they were so genuine. Like, I have to say, like, there was such a genuine push to really teach the consumer about real estate, to tie things back to real estate, and obviously conflict needed to arise, and I probably should have fostered more conflict. I'm not a really conflict-based person, but like that probably is where there maybe was more room, but they were really trying, and they were creating something that was kind of special. And that's why it had a good run.
The first few seasons were great. I mean, it showcased real estate instead of showcasing drama. Like, I just don't understand owning Manhattan and owning the city because the drama is not about real estate. Like, if you're gonna have a show like that, just make it the real estate agents of New York City, like the Real Housewives of New York City. It's basically that. It's just in apartments that we're selling.
I know. But you know what? Again, it's like there will be something. There will be something that will come. There will be a next whatever. This content stuff is going to keep evolving, but it's going to have to probably start organically with somebody maybe on a YouTube that's going to be doing something that hits that. Like, it's going to. I don't think producers are going to put money behind that right now, just because they're just not seeing success from it.
Agreed. But so speaking of seeing success, you are someone that is on Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC. You're so good at like going on all these shows and talking about the market and financial markets and everything like that. You know, do you find more success there, or do you find more success from $1 Million Listing?
The reality is you do get more business from $1 Million Listing than you do from going on the news. I'm on Fox a fair amount, and I think because of that, I'm not necessarily on everybody's living room in New York City, because not everybody in New York City is watching like the big old Fox, just because of the way New York is.
True.
But that being said, like from a credibility perspective, that's the direction I want to be in. It brings me a lot of joy. The future of what I'm doing as far as my personal brand is literally around financial literacy for millennials to be able to use real estate as a way to build wealth. Because the truth is that is the most important thing, and I'm the oldest millennial you can be. That's from
is that true? I didn't even know that.
1983 is the last year.
Wow.
So
okay.
I'm a millennial.
Look at you.
And I want to.
I knew you looked younger than me for a reason.
Well,
I mean.
Listen. Let's just say that helping my generation with this whole topic, I think is really important. And what's great about that is that is real estate, and that is something that can be talked about on all these different platforms.
Agreed.
And being able to break it down into chewable chunks for people that don't really understand, especially so many people in our generation. They don't own, they're high earners, and they have no idea what to do, and they're about to be in a high interest rate environment for a long time, and they are trying to figure that out.
And what I always, because I'm a millennial just like yourself, I'm not at the end of it, but you know, I'm somewhere in the middle. But I never understand the whole theory of like millennials don't want to be tied down and they want the flexibility. The truth is, all my millennial friends, they can tie down a mortgage and they can still have flexibility of traveling everywhere. And so I think there's like a balance, but you know, it's important for us to show people that, you know.
And a lot of people don't know the benefits of ownership of a home because they are. Because obviously we had things that happened, like, you know, the SALT deductions and things like that made it less advantageous, especially in parts of the country like where we are, where it's a high real estate tax place. But the truth is like there is a lot of benefit from ownership.
Huge.
And it's truly a luxury as somebody who owns their own place, right?
It's a luxury, it's an investment.
Yes.
There's so many different ways of looking at it. But then, so really quickly, one last thing about $1 Million Listing.
Yes.
You know, something I love about you is that you are a really good person. And like me, you love your family. You're always posting about your kids. I don't know, I could never imagine being on a show like that because I want my personal life to exist. Like I want to be able to enjoy it. And I also, my celebrity clients, I was always nervous that people who were known like wouldn't work with me because they wouldn't want to be on a show like that. Like, did you ever, how was your experience in either of those?
You know, I have to say that the people who came to me just because of $1 Million Listing were really, probably I can count them on one hand. But the truth is the ones that have stuck with me that came to me from $1 Million Listing are ultimately just good, normal people, you know? And then there were a handful, of course, that came who were not normal people then there's that whole element of things. But I would say that what's been great about $1 Million Listing is basically because of these other shows that have come up afterwards, $1 Million Listing does look so tame that it's no longer thought of as this like salacious, oh my God, would I really want to work with a broker on $1 Million Listing because everybody's going to know. It's like, they're like, $1 Million Listing? It's like,
Like,
basically
that's the
looks
old
like
one.
NPR at this point. Like, it's like, no, literally, like, actually, I didn't even know that was going to be the case. Because now it, like, looks like they were like, wow, she really hit the jackpot being on, like, a show where it was, like, normal.
I mean, it's so crazy. Like, I had to explain to clients of mine the other day, I'm like, you can choose someone on the Sirhan show, right? And I'm like, but most of those agents aren't even in the top 100. Like, they don't even want to be real estate agents. I'm like, I don't know what you're looking for, but it's not that.
And hey, and if they become that because of the show, God bless them.
Exactly.
So, literally.
There's
I
more
wish them-
than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah.
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 So with that, I just want to take a break, but I'm excited to see you back soon.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. We work with Brown Harris Stevens and many other top real estate firms, staging their homes to sell quickly and at the highest price possible. Our staging is affordable without sacrificing quality or design. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
And we're back. We drank some water. Our voices are a little bit more mature. So a fun topic that I love about you is that you work with your husband a lot.
I do.
And, you know, mostly on new developments that you sell. But, you know, coming from a real estate family, I've always thought it's so funny to work with your partner, work with your husband, your wife. Like, I see these, you know, husband-wife duos, like broker duos in the business, and I'm just like, I can barely spend half my time with my partner. Like, I don't know how I could spend all the time.
Yes.
So how do you do it? I mean, how, is it enjoyable? Is it not enjoyable?
So I would say we don't actually do it anymore, really, because we just sold our last unit in one of the buildings I was working on with him for years.
That I brought the buyer.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, here we are. And so I would say what's really important about working together as a couple is first of all, it's so natural as a real estate agent to want to work with your husband who's a developer. It like makes total sense, right? And then there's this whole stigma where you're like, well, and then if we don't work together, people are going to think I'm a loser because of the fact that I didn't get my husband's business. He knows who I am. Why would he not, you know, want to work with me? But the truth is that with new development, and this is because I think if you're going to work with your spouse as a partnership team, or your brother or sister or a cousin or a relative, I think that's actually a different dynamic than being like on the other side of the table, right? And so with
That's fair.
And with development, as a sales agent in general, you really are in the most pivotal position as far as the relationship's concerned to the success of the project. And so the stakes are even higher. And that's one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't recommend it. Like, we did it over the years, and like we survived and we're fine, but it was definitely really stressful. It's also the kind of thing where you then don't know when to talk about stuff and when not to talk about stuff, because you can get kind of escalated quickly, especially when things aren't in a great phase, which has happened over the last couple of years because a lot of things have not been in great phases, you know, with sales or coming to market and things like that. So I think ultimately, we both kind of decided that we'll see what we'll do in the future. But the reality is like I realized having a buffer that was a quality buffer between Stefano and I on the projects we were working on probably was the best way to do things. And then the other part of it is that at some point you have to find a way to like structure how you're going to be talking about it, when you're going to be talking about it, because like if you don't have good reporting and you don't have good transparency from my team to his team, then all of a sudden it's like, well, what is actually happening? And they always want to talk about it at the moment when you've literally finally sat down to like chill for the day and everybody's been beating the crap out of you, and then it's like literally you're about to fall asleep and they're like, hey, so what's going on with or like you're in the middle of sit-ups or something like that, and So I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not. And I don't think it's about being a good person or a bad person and good couple, bad couple. It's really like you're putting yourself in a very, very difficult position.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I always think back to the beginning of my career when I for some reason did a bunch of deals with this broker, Marie Claire Gladstone at Corcoran, and her husband was a developer, and I remember she would always complain about, and she's great, like she's actually like a really fun, interesting broker, but her husband was really difficult and would drive her crazy, and I would always feel bad because I thought from the outside looking in, buyers and brokers felt like, screw her, she's obviously her bias and her what she is talking out of and coming from is all representing, and you're supposed to represent your sponsor and your developer, but it's different where she was representing her husband and it was coming off in a very unnatural way because she was trying so hard to represent her husband. And then I can only imagine like personal life, how, when do you talk about it? When do you not? Like, you're putting the kids to bed and it's like, oh my God, we just got an offer on this and it sucks. And like, your husband's so mad at you. And like,
yeah, it's a lot of like, it's really, really hard. I think that there's nothing wrong with working with family, but I think like the spouse thing it's really tough. I think, right now Ryan has one of Stefano's projects and he's been working on it with him for over a decade, and it's totally fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, and it should be, right? Like, especially if it's someone like Ryan who is our equal,
Yeah, and
like
also Ryan's got
huge new developments. Like,
yeah, and the way that they're running that development for him is what needed to happen for the way that development needs to be, and so that is working. And then if it doesn't work one day, and it makes sense for us to collaborate again, never say never. I'm totally interested in the opportunity, but like I would say at this point I would probably structure it a little bit differently than I did in the past, because when I first got into working on his developments, I was like pretty new to the business.
Yeah.
And that was almost 20 years ago.
When you worked on Duane Park was
in the middle. Yeah, it was later. Yeah, that was like 2017, which was, and those are amazing. Amazing apartments.
And even though I feel strongly, towards not working with your spouse, I do think there's a lot of really great collaborations and successful teams that have like mother-daughter, father-son. Felt like I look at Lisa Lippman, just brought her son in. Like, I think it's like there's so many great things with a kid. I just think like having your spouse can be so so wild.
Well, the thing with our business in general, and the fact is the smartest thing you could do is bring in your child, because of the fact that it's such a generational business, and the cumulative nature of it just continues to go as you get older. So it's just makes sense.
And who better to take over your clients than your child who lived through those clients with you? Like, it's a really natural progression.
Yeah, exactly. And they know the rhythm of the business, and they know there's a lot of things that you can't teach that they're brought up with.
So speaking of Duane Park,
yes,
you worked on that with your old team.
Yeah,
which was
with Hudson Advisory. I was with Hudson Advisory then.
With the guys, Stephen and Clayton, we say hi.
Yeah.
We love them.
Yeah,
but
they're great.
I want to know, how was it working on such a big, successful team? I mean, you were there when it was smaller.
I was there when it was small. I actually came over before Clayton came over.
Crazy.
It was Stephen and I and Rachel Raffay, who was their head of ops at the time.
Yeah, and you were really there when it was like 5 of you, 6 of you, Zach,
small.
Ian,
it was great.
Clea.
It was so fun. We had so much. It was such a fun group. It was so fun.
Did you feel like that really helped your business, and the collaboration, the camaraderie, having the support of, 2 heads that are definitely extremely successful on their own?
Right.
Like,
I thought, you learn something from every team you're on, but there's nothing that replaces running the team when it comes to what you learn from running a team. Because I do think fundamentally, I would admit, as a team member over the course of over a decade that I was on teams, you do genuinely count your team leaders' money. When the truth is you can't have any possible understanding of how expensive it is to run a team unless you run one. And so or unless you're really smart. But even if being really smart, which being
we
really
are
smart,
so smart,
being really smart, and then also somehow understanding how these teams are run. So I think that I learned a lot about brokering. I feel like they're great agents. I learned a lot about a lot of things that were really important for me to learn, and then I learned a whole other bunch of stuff when I started my own team.
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? Like we used to work on teams. You know, we now have our own teams. Oh my God, I hated being on teams. Like I think I'm lucky that I only was on 2, but
What teams were you on?
Well, I came into the business with this mentor who we will not name, but he's fantastic, but he likes to be a little more private. But he and his team took me in 13 years ago. And then, you know, I worked with Holly Parker.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I think what I always didn't like about being on a team, to your point, was I felt like I wanted to make decisions. I had strong opinions about things, but I was also there's one side of it, but then the other side was I'm choosing to be on this team, so I can't say those opinions or give those decisions because I am making the decision to be on it. So to your point, the best feeling in the world is starting your own.
Starting, it's the best part.
Starting, it's the best part. The reality of having it is a whole other one. So tell me about your great team. I love your team, by the way.
I have an incredible team, and over time, I feel like I've had amazing talent. Some have stayed, some have not, and I think that's part of the whole process of, especially the early years of a team, because I didn't know how to structure a team. I didn't know how to structure splits on a team. I didn't know how to structure even just I think the financials are really where these teams break down. It's not just about leadership and infrastructure. It's about the team finances and really being true to what it takes to have a profitable team, for the team lead to still make money. Unfortunately, the team lead does effectively have to make money off of the business that's being run out of the team. I think if you are taking on people on your team that you don't plan on making money off of or with, and you're not making money off of people, you're making money with them, then you really shouldn't be hiring those people or have that team, because the reality is that when you really look at the numbers long term, anybody who you're not making money off of, you're losing money on.
Yeah.
Because the cost of running the team is so exorbitant. The marketing, everything being on, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. As soon as you have 3 or 4 people in a photo, you're just all of a sudden you've got to keep that pitch book up to date. You've got to keep those bios ready to go. You need to keep working on what you guys have sold, and that's a lot.
It's a lot, and I think people don't understand how much back end.
There's a lot of back end, and agents that come from really lean teams that maybe don't have marketing can be like, well, it's just about doing deals, when it's like, it's not actually just about doing deals anymore. If you don't build a marketing machine behind your team, you will not have deals to do, especially considering we're going further and further towards a listing-focused business.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that marketing machine, you won't get listings.
And I always say that we as the team leads, yes, it's important. We are a face, we are a name, but the heart of the team is the ops person. Like, if you have an amazing ops person, the team is incredible. If you have an ops person that flounders, it can really go south real fast.
I think at this point, your ops person needs to have a strong enough head on their. If you want to do let's say you want to do consistently over $125 million a year in sales, I think your ops person needs to be strong enough that they need to actually be able to look at you in the eye sometimes and be like, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Agreed.
Whereas a lot of ops people, the way that it works out with personality profiles is like they don't have that high enough driver personality that they're actually so busy kind of being in a fight or flight mode about you being needing something or upset with them.
Yeah.
And the reality is if they have a calmer aspect and they're able to, and they are stable and they are smart enough and they have enough experience, then I think that's kind of what you need. Because otherwise, especially all of a sudden you bring in a business consultant, they're just going to immediately only listen to the business consultant and not to you, where there's a lot of elements
they need
there.
to have a backbone.
Yep,
They need
they
to,
do.
and
They
I
do.
think what I've learned through the years and what's really important for agents out there, newer agents, experienced agents, people who aren't even in the business, who watch these real estate shows, like one of the most interesting things I've heard recently is like Ryan Serhant, who we both have a lot of great feelings towards. He's built, it's incredible what he's built, but honestly, I think of his company as a team, as like a huge team.
Well, the teamerage is what Tom Ferry
Ooh,
calls it.
I
It's
like
a
that.
teamerage. It's instead of it being a brokerage, it's a teamerage, which means there's lead flow and deal flow that comes from the brokerage, which is part of
interesting.
the whole thing. And then obviously training and development and things like that go along with it.
Because if you think of him as a teamerage, he only makes money from his own social media and advertising.
Yeah.
Like he himself really doesn't make a lot from agents, projects, and people, I always hear people saying they think he like rolls in cash and like is making so much for all of the
Well, you know why they call it brokerage, right? Because
No,
you
tell me.
broke if you have a brokerage.
And this is why I love her. She's funny too. She's pretty, she's successful, she's funny.
No,
Well,
but
come
people,
on.
it's so funny. I've been saying that like the last couple of weeks. I'm like, you know what they call it? And everyone's like, why? I'm like, I can't believe nobody ever heard this joke.
I never heard that.
Even the people who own the brokerages don't hear the joke. I'm like, come on, you haven't heard the
They
joke?
should
Maybe.
know.
I'm like, you should know this because you're broke. They're not broke, but you know what I mean? Like, it's
Totally.
the margins are so thin.
So thin.
The margins are razor thin. And if you aren't bringing leads in, I mean, I think that, that's where I would say he's probably making a little money off the leads he's bringing in, and everything.
Right.
But no, I mean, that's how it is.
And so to just like summarize the team thing, for newer agents out
Yes.
there who are listening and watching, do you suggest to people join a team? Do you suggest? I always tell people, I think, don't join a team and have a mentor. Like if you want to
Yeah.
really be your own agent, learn the business, on a team, it's so hard to get attention. I'm like, find a mentor.
So I think that if you are going to join a team, you should join a team after you've been in the business a little while so you can offer enough value that you can turn leads into money. So whatever you can do to get those first 6 to 12 months of doing some deals, whether it's mentorship, whatever, then I think there's a time and a place for being on a team if you want to have deal flow and you don't want to run the back end of all of it and you're not ready to ramp things up right away. The other thing that I think is like really underrated because the fact that everybody wants to be a star from day one is the hybrid assistant role for an agent that's on the up and up.
Agreed.
I did that for 5 years. I was 24/7, alongside Sabrina Saltiel, who's
fantastic.
Who's a fantastic agent, and she's just so admirable and was just really generous with me with being very fair and we worked really well together. And I think that 1 + 1 = 4 kind of business model isn't so crazy. And if you have enough experience or enough life experience and you're ready to go, somebody could potentially benefit greatly from that. But you have to swallow your ego a little bit. And then obviously, I think 5 years is probably too long to be in that position if you really want to spin out and be an agent, because then you start to learn bad habits of just being in support of someone else.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there.
And that's the problem with newer agents. And where the reality shows all come back home is that all these newer agents have egos and want to be a star.
Right.
And we as stars can tell you it's not all it's cracked up to be. I think a lot of times you and I both would rather not be the star and just fly under the radar a little bit. Me more than you.
I would say I don't know if it's ego or what it is, but I do derive a tremendous amount of joy and energy from television. There's something that feeds. It's like I think everybody's got something that fuels them. For me, I didn't realize television would fuel me so much as far as giving me something that gave me life. And I would say that TV and the content and the news appearances, it gives me life more than it takes away from me.
And you're also, the reason it does, you're really good at it. Right. I mean, if
I'd like to be better even. Like I want to keep doing it because I enjoy the growth that comes from it as well.
Yeah, I mean, we all grow and get better with anything, but you know, if you were bad at it, I don't think you would like it,
No,
and you
of
probably
course.
wouldn't be asked
No,
on.
and people,
So
I know
like,
people who are bad at this stuff, and it's incredible because they're like, you're like, really, you shouldn't be
Right.
in front of a camera.
And you know, you're really good in front of the camera. I don't want to be on TV because I like grinding. I'd rather just like not have a face and grind, but you're really good at both. And so on that note, I just thank you for coming on, and I so admire you, and you're a great friend and an amazing broker.
Thank you. I'm sorry we set the bar so high for all the next ones.
I know. How can we
Very
ever have
hard.
more episodes?
I don't know.
Thank you so much again for coming on. I so appreciate you. And thank you everyone out there for listening and watching. Please subscribe to all of the following episodes that we're gonna do on getmorenetwork.com. Follow me at Matty Cohen on Instagram, and can't wait to have my next guest, Ian Slater, on. It's gonna be great.